Hi, it's Martin from Robson, Laidler, and I'm here with Hugh Welch from Muckle. Hi, Hugh, how are you doing?
Morning, Martin.
This is part of our series on B Corps for B Corp month. You recently became a B Corp. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, why you did it, I suppose?
Yes. Well, we got certified, I think is the correct word, in December, about 3 days before Christmas, which was a fine present. Gosh, to answer your question properly, though, we have to go back quite a long way.
Yeah.
I've always felt that we, Muckle, couldn't be a successful corporate law firm in isolation from the broader community out there.
Yeah.
And without wishing to make any sort of political statement at all, there is poverty and deprivation in the northeast of England, which in my view, frankly, should not exist in 2024.
I think that's apolitical anyway, because it's always been...
It's a fact.
So it doesn't matter who's been in charge, does it?
And I felt that we should always try and do something about that, and that partly stems from the fact that I think we as lawyers were very fortunate. We have quite a privileged position in society, and we are in a position to influence things and try and influence things. So, this is a long answer to your question, but anyway, if you go back to 2001, 2001, get my years right, 22 years ago, we first set up then our charitable fund with the Community Foundation, and we committed at that point to put 1% of our annual profits into that fund and to use that to make grants to smaller projects working in the northeast of England. And that's been a sort of central thread of our role, as I see it, as a responsible business. Yeah. As you know, there's a B Corp tagline, strapline, of business being a force for good. Yeah. And I do passionately believe in that. So we start with our community fund, and then we've just developed that over the years. We've tagged onto that an increasing amount of pro bono work, i.e. unpaid work supporting charities. We've increased our volunteering and given everybody 2 days paid leave for volunteering opportunities and everything else. And I think it would be about 5 years ago, and I was at a conference in London organised by SALT, which is the business network of Christian Aid. And I heard somebody there talk for the first time about B Corp, and I'd not heard much about them before that. Yeah. And I thought, ooh, wow, hey, that looks interesting. Yeah. And I thought that it might provide the framework for us to further develop our work, because I think I was probably at the time worrying that I wasn't quite sure what the next stage was for us in all of what we were doing about being a responsible business. And I felt we'd sort of perhaps run out of steam a little bit around some of what we were doing, and we were not quite sure what more we could do around the environmental and green aspects and everything else. So I thought, oh, wow, yes, that looks good. And I spent a little bit longer, another year or so, just sort of occasionally reading up and hearing a bit more about it. And, I'm talking now 2018, 2019, that stage B Corp was still relatively unknown, I feel.
Quite novel.
Yeah, in the UK. So
very little known about it even a couple of years ago.
So then that was probably about 3 years ago. I took it to my fellow partners and I said, I think this would be a great framework for us to improve what we're doing and give more structure to what we're doing. They said, yep, great, we're definitely on board with that. Keep developing it. So then we looked more closely at it. We looked at the B Corp impact assessment form, and I think it's probably worth mentioning here at this point for others who might be listening to this, that you can look at the B Corp impact assessment form, and you can start to fill it in, and you can see where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are without any commitment at all to progressing any further. And I think that's a fantastically useful tool. So anyway, so we got into that and we worked through that, and we saw areas where we could improve, and we saw areas where we were strong, and we decided that yes, we were going to fully commit to it and go into the properly into the assessment and certification process.
You mentioned it probably sounds very similar to us, to be fair. Graham, RMD, said, I think we should go B Corp. For me, it was quite an easy process. I had one question for him. Would it stop us doing anything that we currently do? So in other words, what would change? And he said, well, no, we're not doing any of the things that you shouldn't do anyway, which was quite easy. I wasn't overly worried about what we might have to start doing, because I don't mind doing, it sounds quite corny, but it's generally nice things, isn't it? It's just, it's trying to get you to be a better business. It's quite simple at its core. So it was quite easy. Did you have much explanation? Because you'd been looking at this for a while. Did you have to have a big persuasion piece, or did you kind of go, this is the outline, what do you think? I mean,
no, it was,
tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it wasn't even, it didn't even need persuasion. That would be completely the wrong word, because as a group of partners, everybody has been engaged in what we've been doing over the last
things for so many years anyway.
20 or 30 years. So I think everybody could see the advantages and what we might get out of it. In terms of things we've had to change, no, very little. I think we need to perhaps, obviously we've got all the anti-money laundering stuff already in place in terms of client engagement. That's just regulatory stuff that you have to have. We don't act for any clients whose trade could be, we don't act for
contentious.
We're not involved with arms dealers. We're not involved with
smuggling anything anywhere.
The nuclear industry. So we don't, as such, have a formal policy for that. But it's something that intrigues me. We've got a very active property development team in the firm, and acting for developers who are doing all sorts of stuff all over the region and further afield. What would happen if one of those developers said that he wanted our help to redevelop a property into, sorry about the example, a lap dancing club, for example? What would we do? Would we say no, sorry?
Yeah.
We can't take that on.
It's interesting, but it doesn't happen as often as you.
No, we haven't had that challenge.
We've got thousands of clients, and we would have to really rack our brains to come up with something that would even remotely be seen as even grey, never mind, the black and the white of things. So it's interesting that it sounds like, again, very similar to us. We were already doing good things, and this kind of gave us more, and I've wrote here, ideas. You seem to touch on, we had the foundation for many years, we already had volunteering days, we were already doing pro bono work, and it's, for us, it was almost like, well, what else can we do? And we found the framework really useful. So we thought, we didn't even know some of these things were a thing. That's useful. So we now use the impact assessment just as a way to say, well, we think we're okay, but what else can we do? And it is quite a useful tool just to run through and go, oh, well, actually, let's look at employee engagement or community engagement. Well, there's some ideas, right? What can we work towards now? So we see this almost as a checklist. I mean, it is a literal checklist, isn't it? But we see it as a checklist of things that we can do next.
Because, as you know, to be certified, you have to have achieved at least 80 points on the impact assessment form, and then there's a recertification process after 3 years. But I think there is a real drive to continue to look at that score and look at ways in which you can improve that score. And I think that's what you're talking about, because I think that's really helpful to have that
it's external accountability, isn't it?
To say, to have that focus.
You're good enough, but also let's say I'm better. And I think that continuing external source of inspiration, ideas, and accountability, I think, is really useful. We touched on this the other day when we talked as well. So we've talked about how you got on board and the fact that it's useful for maintaining. How are you planning on maintaining this going forward? Then, so you touched on having a working group or a steering group. I think
I'm not going to give you a totally good answer to that question really at the moment, because I think the accurate answer probably is I don't know. Yeah. And the reason I don't know is that I think I explained to you, we put our assessment in on the 31st of March 2023. I know that because it was one of the objectives that was set for me as a partner, that I had to get our impact assessment done by the end of March, and I'm pleased to say that it was 3 p.m. on the 31st of March. So bags of time.
Loads of time. Free spare hours there.
Sorry, there's a serious point in this story. So yeah, we got it in 31st of March, but then we went into the queue for assessment, and we kept getting nice emails from B Corp saying, you're in the queue, you haven't got an assessor yet, yet. And we didn't pop out at the top of that queue until it was October last year. And I thought, blimey, well, it's taken us 6 or 7 months just to get through the queue. So it's going to be another 6 or 7 months before the assessment process is completed. But I think partly as a result of the, I suppose it's going to sound arrogant, but as a result of the quality of the application that we'd made, we got through the assessment process relatively easily, and we were accredited in December, just as I said, a couple of days before Christmas. That happened much faster than I thought, and to be fair to say, it rather took me by surprise, and so I'm still just thinking through how we develop it, how we make the most of it. That's both internally, in the way that we've talked about in terms of improving our score and everything else, but also externally, and how we become a good and active member of the B Corp community. And shooting off slightly at a tangent, that B Corp social that you and I were at on whenever it was, Tuesday this week, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It was such a good event to be in a room with a group of people where there was such a community of spirit, and just everybody with a similar sense of purpose around this, but was around business being able to be a force for good. So I think I've got to look at how we develop it internally, how we improve our score, what we need to do better internally, and then very much looking out externally. How do we be an active? I believe I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe in the B Corp movement. But I believe in the B Corp movement. How do we, as a by comparison with some of them, a small business in the whole B Corp movement, how do we actively participate in it?
What I found interesting, and I still find interesting, is I don't know whether it's harder or easier to be big or small. I think a 3-person business can probably make more flexible, agile decisions. So it's probably easier to make change there. Whereas the large business has probably got a wider team to do the various things that are required. And I don't know, we're probably, we're not too dissimilar in sizes, 100 plus people, but not 200. It's quite a bit of work, but also we're big enough that you can't just go, tomorrow we're doing this. That you've got to weigh these things up and take them with the right level of pace, haven't you? Yeah,
I think I'd rather be a small size member than a large one, because we've got 175 people. It's still a very manageable number. You can get everybody together. So we are, for example, having a whole firm conference at the end of April. You can get everybody together, and it's so much easier to explain the rationale for something like B Corp, what it means and where we're going with it when you've got everybody
plus together. Theoretically at that scale you still know everybody, everyone can still come and say, Hugh, what were you thinking there? What are we doing? So I'm still on the side of preferring to be trying to do this than but then you look at Innocent Drinks, huge business, very successful business, long time they've been known for their ethical stance. I think they use their B Corp status very well, not in an arrogant sort of way, but I think they use it very well. So it seems to be every bit as applicable to businesses the size of ours and yours, or the multinationals. I think it's quite clever, that. I like the diversity of the people in the room as well, because there were some larger, some smaller, some very small, some reasonably large. but it isn't all just professionals or all just trades. You know, some great presentations the other day. You know, there was a roofing company, you know, sharing a room with other people. I think I like that diversity as well. I think it seems to be attracting any kind of business, which is good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
but
as well as the size,
we could do with more in the northeast. I'm going to get this stat wrong, but there's only 22
with a dozen or so applications pending.
Yeah,
I think
22 in the whole of the northeast.
There's a lot of green space up here, though, Hugh. You know, it's not that dense.
No, we could do with more. We could do with more.
Yeah. But I think the prediction was the other day that there's going to be double.
Right.
Relatively soon, hopefully, which is good. What are you hoping to get next from this? Then you know, we've talked about why it was an easy road into it, and I don't mean in a evil capitalist way, but what are you hoping to, you know, achieve through ongoing membership as a B Corp?
Well, I think first of all it would be back to the internal stuff, making sure that everybody in the firm properly understands why we're doing it, what it means, what B Corp is as a movement. So in my mind, I'm splitting it between the internal stuff and then the external stuff. I don't know. I mean, I would hope that by the end of 2023, I'll have been to all the local B Corp events that are going. I hope I'll have made some good connections. That I'll have learnt something from what other people are doing, a bit like my discussions with you. You know, I can learn a lot from what Robson Laidler are doing in this.
So we're comparable in a lot of ways, aren't we?
So in the short term, the next 12 months, it's a bit of a learning process for me.
Yeah. Okay, then, good. Well, listen, Hugh, that's our chat. If you're considering B Corp, there will be links below. If you want to do the impact assessment, really good point there. You can do the impact assessment without going any further, which will give a lot of people good food for thought, if nothing else. We hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you very much for Hugh for sharing Muckle's journey.
It's a pleasure. My contact details are readily available anywhere. So if anybody
and will be below as well.
And if anybody wants to ask me anything about the process, I will happily answer any questions as far as I can.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Hugh.